We're ready whenever you are, Mayor.
Okay. Good evening, and thank you for attending tonight's City Council meeting. Get closer. For those who are attending remotely, the camera in the council chambers is set up to show those attending in person. The platform we are using has a raise hand feature. You will notice a picture of a hand in the upper right-hand corner. When we reach the point in the meeting where the public has the opportunity to address council, you can click the button and be given your opportunity to address council. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one
nation, under God, justice for all.
Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Skelly,
Here.
Councilor Dilaba,
Here.
Councilor Fisher,
Here.
Councilor Kennedy, here. Councilor Powers, Councilor Reich,
Councilor Powers asked to be excused for tonight's meeting with consensus of council.
I was going to read that, but yeah, that's true, we did. So do we ask for a consensus after the roll?
Yes, sir, please.
Yes.
Councilor Reich,
Here.
Councilor Scamperly,
Here.
quorum present.
Okay. As was said, Councilor Powers asked to be excused. Do we have a consensus?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so he is excused. We do not have any presentations tonight, but we do have a proclamation, and I will read that. Whereas violence against women is a worldwide pandemic, it crosses every social and economic class, every religion, race, and ethnicity, and whereas at least 1 out of every 3 women worldwide have experienced violence during their lifetime. And whereas Zanta International supports projects that engage and empower the global community to end violence against women, and whereas Zanta says no to violence against women is a Zanta International campaign to raise awareness of the increased actions to end violence against women and girls around the world. And now, therefore, I, Jeffrey M. Skelly, do hereby proclaim November 25th, 2020 through December 10th, 2020 as the Zanta Says No to Violence Against Women campaign, and encourage all people to recognize and help end violence against women and girls. That's a great proclamation. We have one public hearing tonight. It's regarding an ordinance authorizing the city manager to enter into the necessary agreements to lease approximately 1,190 square feet of office space at the 330 4th Street basement for a satellite office of Senator Patty Ritchie. It's going to be bill number 116. I will open that public hearing up now. If everyone is attending remotely, please use your raise hand feature.
I do not see any hands raised.
Must be there's agreement on that one. It's definitely is good to have a senator in your building. There is no one. I declare this public hearing closed. Personal appearances. If anyone would like to address council now, use your raise hand feature. You'll have 5 minutes to speak.
The first individual is registered as Michael Tooley, and I will unmute that individual now. It appears your line is open, sir.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you tonight. First, I want to
Evening,
offer,
Mike.
yes, thank you. First, I want to offer my thoughts about the city manager's proposal to reorganize city departments to address the city's financial stress. Personally, I'm not opposed to a study of this proposal or some modification of it, even though at this time I would not support it. But I think such changes cannot be done without careful study. The media reported the city manager stated at your last meeting that changes to the city charter needed to implement his proposal would involve housekeeping rather than dramatic shifts. I disagree. I think the proposal constitutes a significant change in the infrastructure of city government, and such change should not be rushed. If City Council wants to consider the city manager's proposal, I strongly encourage you to first establish a charter commission to give it careful study. Next, regarding the discussion City Council is having with administration about the proposed 2021 budget and consideration of reducing the tax levy in part to create more space between the tax levy and the constitutional tax limit, the city has been dealing with this issue for many years, as I'm sure you know. I recall it was an issue impacting discussions by the 2000 City Charter Commission, the second one I served on and the one I chaired. I believe this issue should be dealt with in a more incremental manner, perhaps after development and analysis of a 3 to 5 year budget projection. I'm not sure you can truly measure the immediate impact on services to city residents next year if you adopt a budget that has a significant decrease in the tax levy. Related to developing the 2021 budget, I think City Council should request soon a fund balance projection, an estimate of this year's revenue and expenses to determine if it's possible to make use of some of these funds in 2021 to help buy time for development of a long-term financial plan, and if needed, the time to study the city manager's proposal for administrative reorganization. I recall reading recently the city manager mentioned the write-down of receivables, which will result in a significant decrease in the general fund's fund balance as of December 31st, 2019. This may eliminate use of fund balance for consideration in support of the budget, but still a current year fund balance projection should be information demanded by council from administration before adopting the budget. My final comments deal with long-term planning. I recently read in the media report Mayor Skelly's comment that a goal of the sales tax negotiations with the county is to help the city develop financial plans for the next 5 to 10 years. I commend the mayor and others representing the city in these negotiations for joining with the county's towns and villages and hopefully achieving a responsible sales tax revenue stream for the next few years. I reference this because I believe last year, city administration and city council were motivated to achieve stability in the city's labor force and allow for long-range planning on the expense side of the budget in negotiating and ratifying the union contracts with the police and fire departments. My understanding that these contracts allowed for reduction in staffing over their respective terms to retirements and what I consider a reasonable annual inflationary increase in salary, which was offset in part by a modest shift in health insurance costs to employees. The city has made a significant investment over the past few years to add responsibilities to the fire department, including help with code enforcement, as well as to act as first responders. Does the city really want to walk away from this investment and make this work more challenging to accomplish by reducing by 10 the staffing in the fire department? I'm also concerned with the additional legal costs the city might experience if it takes this unilateral action, which I believe would be in violation of the current agreement with the fire department. Is it possible the cost to the city to take this action will offset or exceed the projected savings from its implementation? If the city's fund balance projection for this year and next shows projected losses due in part to the pandemic, I think it would be reasonable to approach its employee unions about revisiting these contracts. And I would be disappointed if the unions declined such a request. But unfortunately, I think the goodwill that I believe existed between the city and its employee unions 1 year ago has been exhausted and threatens the reexamination of these agreements. Thank you.
Kathy,
The next individual is registered as Angie McRoberts, and I will unmute that line now. It appears your line is open.
Yes, this is Scott McRoberts. Going through the proposed 2021 spending plan that the city manager has put together for council, I noticed a few line items I just wanted to point out and didn't know if there was any comments from the council or the manager. For quite some time now, we've heard nothing but doom and gloom about the decrease in state aid that will be provided to us come 2021, as well as federal aid. Going down through the line items, I noticed that the bulk of the state aid and federal reimbursement is either increased slightly or stays the same, except for the consolidated highway aid. So if there's a lot of doom and gloom, I guess I don't understand why we are increasing it rather than putting out an honest picture of it. But,
Mr. McRoberts, you did cut out for a few moments.
oh, okay, I'm sorry. Going back to the state and federal aid that's provided to the city on an annual basis, we've heard doom and gloom for quite some time now on that. And the line items in the budget do not reflect that, with the exception of the consolidated highway aid decreasing by 33,000. The other line items either stay the same or increase. So I didn't know why, if it is that bad of a picture, why would we would increase that? But I digress from that. Going down other line items on the budget, for government services, water fund, and sewer fund, they all have a dramatic increase in the contingency line item. And I didn't know why that was. For instance, government services, 2020 was $184,681. 2021, that's $576,957, an increase of a little over $392,000. That's over 3 times last year's amount and represents about 2.8% of the total spending in your total general fund. Water fund, that increases by 55,000. Sewer fund increases by 213,000. So your total contingency for 2021 is $1,214,810. 6.1% of your total expenses for 2021. Do we have any idea where that money is going, or is that just a little slush fund we got going there, or what's the plan with that? The total tax levy decrease, for instance, is $329,817. The total increase in your contingency line items is $660,000. So I'd be curious to see why those line items ballooned up this year. So I would like to say this to council: instead of looking to cut additional services or remove sidewalks, how about you try and get a more accurate budget or hire someone that can do it? I don't believe the current city manager has the background in finance as required by the city charter. So when you go to do your housekeeping per se, make sure you clean up C18 where it states that the city manager will have at least 1 year of special training in public admin or finance is required. So no reason why we increase the contingencies by $660,000. But it's all doom and gloom. And you're cut taxes by $330,000, but you bump that up 660. That's what I thought. So, and I see later on down the road, further on tonight, we're going to ask for another $20,000 for the accountants. Whereas when the city manager went ahead and hired them unilaterally by himself, it was only $5,000. That was going to more than cover it because we only needed a few tidbits with the city budget. So it's only a sign of things to come from what I can see. So that's my piece.
Who's next?
The next individual is registered as Doug Loeffler, and I will unmute that person now. It appears you are self-muted. Your line is open now.
Yes, Mayor Skelly, in the past, you have said that democracy was spoken at the last election. Democracy is defined as a system of government by the whole population or all the eligible members of a state. From the first day of this administration, you all have forgot about the whole population of our city. The first 11 months of your administration has been nothing short of continue to employ, divide, and conquer tactics instead of exhibiting leadership and a desire to unite this community. As a whole, this community has no confidence in our mayor, our council, or our city manager. Taxpayers and city employees feel betrayed, unappreciated, or devalued, and I can understand where the feelings are coming from. I've always believed that there are three words, especially when they strung together, that can mean the world to just about anyone who hears them, and they are care, respect. Them three words make a statement. People who care, trust, and respect each other tend to work very well together. They accomplish more. Is that the way all things should be, Mayor? Especially our own city government? If this administration cannot comprehend the statement I just made, then you will go down as one of the worst administrations of this city. Mr. Scully, at last year's budget meeting session, you asked council why they were eliminating the video of the council meetings. Your comment, and I quote, "By this act alone, you have taken away the public's ability to be informed. There needs to be transparency. It's time to come out from behind the curtain." Well, I'm asking you and Councilor Reese to come out from behind the curtain tonight and answer the following questions concerning the city manager's contract. In doing a survey of other communities, most new city managers move into the community within 60 days. How come 120 days in this situation? Number two, why will he be allowed to continue to work some of the time from a remote location if he's going to live in this community? And number three, can you explain to the taxpayers and give us the parameters of what the bonus clause will be in his contract? It's amazing that it's going to be at the sole discretion of the city council. So I think you have some explaining to do according to what that bonus says. Also, I found it very intriguing to read Mayor Skelly's letter to the editor in the Watertown Times on Sunday, November 22nd, condemning past councilors and blaming them for the so-called bankruptcy theory. Mr. Skelly, if we are facing bankruptcy, explain to the public, and once again, this is your concern for transparency, why the following was added to the proposed 2021 budget. Previously mentioned, you added $430,886 to the contingency line. Is this for lawyer fees? You got in the comptrollers, right? You've got fees amounting to $84,000, consulting fees. The planning office, which the new proposal is to move Andrea to a supervisory position, and you're going to hire another city planner. That's another $94,834 to that budget. You got a $52,000 line item for a city manager secretary. In a time of dire straits, as you say, and we're going to go to bankruptcy, are all in positions? Is that necessary to the taxpayer? And as you made a statement today, you're trying to look out for the taxpayers of this community. Remember, it's the whole community, not a certain segment of it. And on a positive note, I will say that with the comptroller's office today, the sales tax issue, it was budgeted at $371,723. We've taken in by the end of November, $321,580, and you got two more draws down. And the sales tax was up $14,000 from last year at this time. I think that's a pretty good thing. So we can't say that we're going to be $500,000 short in sales tax this year. And in closing, I'd just like to reiterate what the core value of a mayor and council is. Honesty, it's accountability, it's civic discourse, it's common sense, and it's the common ground solutions to the city's problems.
Who's next, Kathy?
The next individual is registered as David Price, and I will unmute that individual now. It appears you are self-muted.
Good evening, council. I have a few comments to make. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So in the interest of transparency, I made sure I foiled some information, so I got the correct information. I foiled the fund balance as of the onset of 2020. So bear with me as I go through some numbers. The general fund balance sat at $2.5 million. The water fund balance sat at $1.6 million. The sewer fund balance sat at $2.1 million. The library fund balance was $130,000. Community development was $183,000, and the capital fund balance was at $620,000. Quick math brings the fund balance up to $7 million. Now, if the mayor's claim that he saved $1 million this year, that means we're sitting on $8 million in surplus funds. That's a far cry from bankruptcy by anybody's measure. And if I'm going to get blamed for the woes of the city, I'd gladly take the blame for having an $8 million fund balance. Also, to piggyback on what I heard from almost everyone who spoke tonight, in the interest of transparency, in the interest of working together, the last thing anyone should do is to have a cowardly act to try to silence those people who speak by putting a public notice where you chastise the very people you work with. If you want to move forward and work with people and create a better Ogdensburg, you have to work with people and not chastise them. You have to stop trying to silence those who disagree, because those who disagree often come up with different ideas that can help to move things forward. Okay, so stop trying to silence people, start working together, stop blaming people for something that you clearly don't even understand. And the last thing I would say is, in a polite society, in a professional setting, not only do we take our hat off to say the pledge, we take it off during the meeting. Thank you.
Kathy, who's next?
I do not see any other hands raised, Mayor.
Believe it or not, no. Okay. And this brings us to correspondence. Do we have any correspondence?
We have none.
Okay. Next, we have our consent agenda, that the claims as enumerated in the general fund warrant number 19-2020 in the amount of $383,222.39, and library warrant number 19-2020 in the amount of $15,206.20, and capital fund warrant number 19-2020 in the amount of $82,251.05, and community development fund warrant number 19-2020 in the amount of $80.25, and community renewal fund warrant number 19-2020 in the amount of $5,724 as audited, be and the same hereby are ordered paid. I so move.
I'll second.
Could I ask a few questions on some things that we're paying? I've just got a few questions from the public and a few questions for myself. On the convoy pay bill, what are the dates that bill is being paid through? And is there any way to get an overview of what services we use that would be general public knowledge?
Specific questions, Counselor. I just couldn't hear you. Say it again.
I said, what dates does that billing cover? And can we get a copy of that as well?
Of the dates that this warrant covers?
No, I'm looking for the Convoy McKay bill.
Oh, okay.
A copy of the bill, and I just wonder what dates does that cover?
Okay, I'll get that to you.
And then on the Big Apple Music one for the $42.99.50, which department was that for? Was it for vehicles and fleet vehicles, or what was that bill for?
That's the new system here in council chambers for the audio.
Okay. And then the Willow Tree Florist, what did they do in the city for that bill?
So it's trees that we got the $1,000 grant. Right. It's trees we bought with the money from our tree budget.
Okay. And then the gray and gray bill is my next question. So going forward, so that was the 5,000, that is just for the preparation of the budget?
So it's preparation of the budget and services rendered up to the date of the invoice we were given.
All right, and what is that invoice through?
I don't have it with me, Counselor. I can get you that too.
It says 11/13 on here.
Okay.
That was just the payment date. I didn't know how, like, if we were a month behind or if it, they 30-day payments.
No.
And then there was a payment to Ryan Frary. The public was questioning, was that like a refunded fee or something like that?
Yes, a refunded fee.
Okay, thank you. That's what I had said that I thought it was, but I told them I would confirm. That's all I have.
So to Nicole's point, we had talked about voting no on the consent agenda before. So what I was looking for, I guess, after I saw this, and I appreciate you getting us a bill record here, is a little bit more specifics on Convoy and McKay as well, like, you know, what were the services for and things like that. So some sort of an itemized bill was my hang up then, and I don't think I explained myself. And I meant to email you and I didn't, and I apologize for that. But if we could get that from now on, I'll give you my vote tonight. But all right.
No problem.
Thank you very much.
And I'm keeping, just because we've had a lot of inquiries about the legal bills, we've got a book, the 3-ring binder that's now kept, excuse me, in my office, so they're readily available. So if you call on a specific one or you just want to come look at that up to date, it's available to you.
What was that one for?
Any of the legal bills, I've got them all in a binder. Yep.
Thank you.
That it?
Got to vote on that one?
Kathy, would you call the roll?
Mayor Skelly,
Yes.
Counselor Dilaba,
Yes.
Counselor Fisher,
Yes.
Counselor Kennedy,
Yes.
Counselor Reish,
Yes.
Counselor Scamperly,
Yes.
approved.
We do not have any appointments tonight. This brings us to items for council action. Our first item of business will be read by City Manager Stephen Jelly.
An ordinance authorizing the city manager to enter into the necessary agreements to lease approximately 1,190 square feet of office space located at 330 Ford Street basement for the satellite office of Senator Patricia Ritchie.
I'll move that.
I'll second that. Any discussion?
Sure is nice having the senator here in Augsburg.
Plus she's my new.
The door is always open and you can almost walk in and either talk to her staff or if she's around herself, if she's not busy. And it's a good advantage to have. So
She can have her uncle down for coffee.
she can have her uncle down for coffee.
Anything else?
Who's her uncle?
I'm her uncle.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. I'm her husband's uncle.
Oh.
So I'm a kind of uncle-in-law. So any other discussion on this? Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Counselor Kennedy,
Yes.
Counselor Reish,
Yes.
Counselor Scamperly,
Yes.
Mayor Skelly,
Yes.
Counselor Dilaba,
Yes.
Counselor Fisher,
Yes.
approved.
Our next item of business will be read by Director of Planning and Development, Andrea Smith.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The resolution calling for public notice and public hearing regarding the proposed dissolution of a portion of Paper Cherry Street, generally described as being 60 feet in width and 190 feet in length between Lake Street and the Maple City Trail, tax map parcel 59.022-4-58.1.
I'll move that.
I'll second it. Any discussion?
I have a question on here. So when I was reading over the forms, now this is obviously just for the public hearing, so.
Right, yeah.
But I noticed that, and it might just be a typo or I'm just misreading it. Where was it? Self-marked here. Now, I was under the impression that the planning board did not recommend
He didn't.
approval.
No.
And then when I look at, it says the resolution from the planning board, now be it therefore resolved that the planning board, after reviewing the request, being familiar with the area and specific portion of Paper Street to be dissolved, does hereby recommend approval.
Right, but that resolution was defeated.
Ah,
All motions are made in the affirmative.
gotcha. All right, so I was reading it wrong. Thank you.
Sure.
Any further discussion?
I'm for the public hearing, so I can listen to people who want to purchase it, but I think if we've got the planning board and they all say they don't support it, and our director of public works doesn't support it, at this point, I'm even with them when it comes up. I mean, why do we have them if we're not going to listen to them?
Counselor, we've been keeping these paper streets forever. Those same people are voting against it. And I didn't go and address the planning board. I probably should have. The director of public works recommendation was ultimately that we keep a way to get sewer through there. We didn't have to deny the request to do that. We can't sell paper streets and property we don't have if we don't sell, or property we have if we don't move forward to sell them. So I didn't hear anything from the planning board other than there's a nay not to do it. I think Shane's recommendation was clear that we need to leave the potential to get a path there, but we don't need to keep all that property to run a stormwater drain to the river. So we're acting on this based on what I thought council told us several months ago, that you want this stuff moved out. There's a reason that it's all still sitting on the books, because we just freeze every time one of these come up.
I agree to get them on the tax rolls, but not when I'm reading, they're not supporting it. And I guess I probably should have before tonight. I'll go back and I'll read their minutes.
Yeah.
And I'll know exactly why they don't want to do this, because they're appointed to this board and we should be listening to them. Is my feeling.
I agree, but if the people who want to buy it hadn't been mowing it and taking care of it all the years.
And I think we need to give some direction to the planning board of what council's goals are here, which is to move these things so they understand what we're trying to do. And if we're hanging on to something because it's got a potential use to the city, that's our interest. Hanging on to these things is a potential for somebody else who might have a use. Again, we're just going to keep hanging on to this stuff instead of moving it along.
I voted yes on every one we've brought that's come forward, and not once has the planning board said don't do it, nor did anyone else. So until I satisfied with what they had to say, I'm all I'm in for is a public hearing.
Yep.
Any further discussion, anyone?
So I was going to say this before the public hearing, but if we're interested in selling it in the future, is there I'd like to know if we're actually planning on putting a sewer line in, number one. Number two, is it possible, if it's necessary, can we leave a right of way for the city in some sort of document that
Absolutely.
we're gonna keep our authority here to at least run a sewer.
It's stormwater.
If it's a 20-foot swath or whatever that,
right.
So I think that would be a nice compromise, and that way whoever wants to buy it can buy it, and
Yep, and I'm not sure, I mean, again, I just don't know, we'll have to read the planning board's minutes, what their objections were. I know, again, Shane's concern was stormwater line, potential stormwater, that we don't have any plan currently or funding to pull these stormwater lines off our sewer lines, which we'd like to be able to do, but we don't have any plan for that at the moment. But yes, I think that's a smart idea. We leave ourselves the ability to run that direct route to the river.
And you could possibly run it along the arterial and on state land, or you could go down Spruce Street and we could, like say, incorporate a right of way for future storm drain, so. Okay, anything else? Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Counselor Reese,
Yes.
Counselor Scamperly,
yes.
Mayor Skelly,
Yes.
Counselor Dilaba,
Yes.
Counselor Fisher,
Yes.
Counselor Kennedy,
Yes.
approved.
Our next item of business will be read by City Manager Stephen Jelly.
A resolution calling for a public hearing on a local law to amend chapter 215, section 39, 40, and 41 of the Augsburg Municipal Code entitled Water Rates.
So move.
Counselor, just if you give me 1 second. In the resolution itself, it's dated December 14th. I'd like to change that date to December 7th. We're just trying to get all the dates synchronized now for our public hearings for the budget. So you'd all consider this with the date December 7th, not the 14th.
So do we have to amend this?
No, because we're just introducing it. We can just pen the date.
And you introduced it.
I moved it.
I'll
Somebody wants to
second it.
Second it, then we can have discussion.
Yep, discussion, please. Anyone?
So what's the actual rate increase?
3%, Counselor, let me see
It's 443.
it'll go to $4.70 per 1,000 water used.
On a regular home line, was it?
Yes.
3% increase.
3% increase, okay.
On page 2, Counselor, shows you the other rates that are in there. Single family, multifamily, roomies, etc. They're all.
Right, I just didn't see what it was before. Not that I don't pay it.
Any further discussion? Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Counselor Scamperly,
Yes.
Mayor Skelly,
Yes.
Counselor Dilaba,
Yes.
Counselor Fisher,
Yes.
Counselor Kennedy,
Yes.
Counselor Reese,
Yes.
approved.
Our next item of business will be read by City Manager Stephen Jelly.
A resolution providing for public notice and public hearing with regard to an amendment to the administrative regulations. Amendment to administrative regulations of the City of Augsburg hereby introduced before the City Council of Augsburg, New York. Be it further resolved, the City Council will hold a public hearing on said proposed ordinance, City Council Chambers, 7 p.m. Monday, December 14th. And be it further resolved, the City Clerk publish or cause to be published public notice in the official newspaper of the City of Augsburg of said public hearing at least 7 days in advance. This is to change the meeting times beginning the first of the year to 6 p.m. And we'll have meetings every 2 meetings every month.
I'll introduce this.
I'll second that.
Discussion, anyone?
What's the purpose?
Start at 6 instead of 7.
And to get more work done through the summer
Yeah, I don't mind this.
without special, having
Usually,
Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Counselor Dilaba,
Yes.
Counselor Fisher,
Yes.
Counselor Kennedy,
Yes.
Counselor Reese,
Yes.
Counselor Scamperly,
No.
Mayor Skelly,
Yes.
approved.
Our next item of business will be read by Director of Planning and Development, Andrea Smith.
A resolution to approve the sale of surplus property located at 100 Patterson Street, to the St. Lawrence County Industrial Development Agency or an IDA affiliated development corporation.
So move.
I'll second it.
I know the building's been all fixed up. We're gonna get more than that, $1 for that? I'm kidding.
So when I went back and looked at the minutes, I think it was October 16th or 19th of 2019. And basically, the IDA is going to do like a bridge funding so that the city doesn't have to put up the money. Is that the operation here? National Grid gave us 300,000, and then there's $1 million grant. I don't know. It was confusing.
The city successfully applied for a $1 million ESD Restore New York grant in 2017,
Right.
which you all were, at the time of application, the city entered into a memorandum of agreement with the IDA that we submitted along with our application, where the IDA agreed to essentially, as you just articulated, provide the bridge financing so there was no out-of-pocket expense.
Not very well did I articulate that, but I'll try.
To the city. We did also successfully receive a National Grid grant, which provided the required $300,000 match to the $1 million Restore grant. But in addition to the 1.3 in grant funding that we have received, the IDA has also put in excess of $300,000 on top of that. So to date, there's been about 1.6 invested in the property doing the renovations. The IDA also funded the initial phase 1 environmental investigation, which was somewhere in the ballpark of $24,500, but it might be plus or minus 500,000, that we also needed to apply for the $1 million grant. So we are selling it for $1, but arguably the IDA has put in a lot more money than $1.
We have to pay the IDA that 24,000 as well? Correct?
No, the IDA paid the 24,000 for the environmental investigation. When we have received our full reimbursement from National Grid, and we have sent in everything for our reimbursement to the state of New York, who has also reviewed our request and has no objections to us moving forward with the transfer of property.
Andrea, did Elise Stefanik, has there been another grant since secured for 500-some thousand?
The IDA has also obtained grants for phase 2, which is more interior work.
Yes.
They've received 2 grants. One is a Northern Border Regional Commission grant, which is probably what you're speaking of. It is federal funding in the amount of $500,000. They're also working with the Development Authority through their land grant loan program, and they've received some funding through that as well.
Excellent. So I know we were going to have a tour of it, and then there was some issues. Is that going to be coming up?
Yeah, we can certainly schedule a walkthrough with everybody. You are absolutely correct. We had everything scheduled to do a walkthrough, including with our funders, the press, the new council, the outgoing council, for March of 2021, and we had slight hiccup with a minor roof collapse, but we've been able to rectify that, and that's all repaired. So
I think we should see it before we sell it. I'm just kidding. Yeah. No, this is great. This is great for the city to get that building turned around, to not have it, be tore down like many others. So I'm very happy for that, and good job to you and all that have worked on this.
it's been a great project, a very good partnership between the city and the IDA.
Yeah.
This is going to be on the tax rolls when it's sold.
It will be sold to the IDA or an IDA affiliate. The IDA has the ability to do pilots, but it has always been the expectation that there would be some type of base tax payment. And I will work with Patrick Kelly to make sure that we get a memo to better articulate that. I don't really want to jump in over my head and tell you something inaccurate.
Something I'm worried about. So.
Should be some job to be.
This is a nice adaptive reuse of an old building, and I commend Andrea and the IDA for taking a real bad, well, it wasn't that bad, but it was pretty bad. I mean, it's a turn of the century building and rehabbing it to the point where it's an asset and can be shown to prospects and will hopefully create some jobs someday. So nice work. My question is procedurally, I don't understand why when we sell property, it requires more than a majority vote. I wondered if, Steve, if you could talk with our attorney to find out whether that's even, I don't want to say legal, but I mean, it just seems really odd to me. And it seems like an impediment for progress when you have to have like a super majority to sell property. And I don't think that's the way it works. I mean, generally, it's a majority vote. So if you could just have them research that, I appreciate it.
Then I have one more question. If John is done.
Yes, Ann, go ahead. Thanks.
The parking lot, does the parking lot go with the building?
No, sir, it does not.
Okay.
The city purchased the parking lot from two owners previous to the city foreclosing. So we own the parking lots. It's a separate parcel. We currently use it as overflow parking. And because the city purchased that, it is not surplus. And if the city at any point in time chooses to sell it, it would have to be sold via public auction. It can't be a direct arm's length transaction to any particular property owner. It doesn't prohibit you from selling it.
Right.
But
Okay. So if somebody bought the old Newell's building and needed a parking lot for employees and they wanted to purchase that piece of property, then it would have to be through public auction.
correct.
If we want to sell.
Or the city could do some type of a lease agreement and still maintain
Oh, sure.
partial use,
That's a good idea.
use over the weekend when it's mostly used,
Right.
especially in the summer months. So I think there's some ways to look at that. And I think the IDA will probably be interested in having those conversations. Parking is a little bit of a challenge. It's not that there is no parking, but the site is limited without that parking on Patterson Street.
And there's another adjacent property as well, I believe. Somebody tried to buy it just a couple of years ago right next to it that the gentleman has maintained it. And couldn't that expand the parking lot if a potential owner wanted to buy it?
An adjacent property?
Yeah, to the parking lot.
Oh, there is an adjacent homeowner who has expressed an interest to the city. He's interested in purchasing a portion of the parking lot presently owned by the city. So to date, we have not entertained that. Again, the city in that instance would have to do a subdivision. And then the piece that we subdivided off would also have to be sold at public auction. So there's no assurance that the property owner that is interested would be able to obtain it.
Gotcha.
And the part he's looking at is like the southwest rear corner of the parking lot. So that really probably is not advantageous to the city.
I thought it was a piece of grassy area.
He maintains that it is not presently paved. I can't really confirm whether or not it is or isn't paved, but it is part of our parcel.
Thank you.
Okay. Everyone set? Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Counselor Fisher,
Yes.
Counselor Kennedy,
Yes, sorry, I didn't realize I was muted.
Counselor Reach,
Yes.
Counselor Scamperly,
Yes.
Mayor Skelly,
Yes.
Counselor Dilaba,
Yes.
approved.
Our next item of business will be read by City Manager Stephen Jelly.
A resolution to allocate funding for additional accounting services to be provided by Gray & Gray Certified Public Accountants, PC. Looking for the amount up to $20,000. The amount of money I'm proposing here is $20,000 of about $31,000 or $33,000 we had left in the salary we had budgeted for Tim Johnson's position. So this will give me the continued accounting support to get through the get through the end of the year and the last part of the budget process and preparing the end of the year documentation.
I'll introduce this item.
I'll second it.
Discussion?
Could you get us, as the accounting bills come in, could we have an itemized, copy of, what services were rendered and the cost for those items, please?
Absolutely.
Kathy, would you call the roll?
Counselor Kennedy,
Yes.
Counselor Reese,
Yes.
Counselor Scamperly,
Yes.
Mayor Skelly,
Yes.
Counselor Dilaba,
Yes.
Counselor Fisher,
Yes.
approved.
And this brings us to old business. Anyone have any old business?
Mayor, got one item. I'd like to request a member of council make a motion to amend the public hearing date for Bill 110, a local law to allow for the changes in the Ogdensburg Municipal Code, Section 177, entitled Sewer Rates, as dictated by the adoption of the 2020 budget, 2021 budget from December 14, 2020 to December 7, 2020. Again, just synchronizing all the dates. We originally talked about everything coming for public hearing a little bit later. I'm just pulling all those dates into the 7th now. So on the 7th, we'll have the public hearing for the sewer rates, the water rates, and the budget.
I'll move that.
So moved.
I'll second. There we go.
Discussion? John, anyone? Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Counselor Reese,
Yes.
Counselor Scamperly,
Yes.
Mayor Skelly,
Yes.
Counselor Dilaba,
Yes.
Counselor Fisher,
Yes.
Counselor Kennedy,
Yes.
Mayor. We now need to vote as amended. That was
Oh,
a
okay.
motion to amend.
Okay, so, so I was reading that. So,
Can I call the roll?
yes, please.
Thank you. Counselor Scamperly,
Yes.
Mayor Skelly,
Yes.
Counselor Dilaba,
Yes.
Counselor Fisher,
Yes.
Counselor Kennedy,
Yes.
Counselor Reese,
Yes.
approved.
Any other old business, anyone?
I have one. Augsburg Bridge and Port Authority, they need a security agreement for the airport. I know that we had one, we looked at it, sitting right on my desk at home. We're gonna get on that. They wanted it by October. And they need it ASAP. I know they're looking for some pretty outstanding grant funding and things like that.
Yeah, I just, I spoke to them, and matter of fact, I just emailed Steve on Friday. I just want to get through the work session tomorrow with the police department, just to make sure that you're all comfortable with what we've done, how we budgeted for it, and then I'll forward it on to them for review. The agreement's done. I just want you all to understand what we're doing. We did make a slight adjustment in our, the funding request for it based on the loss of the airline, so it required a little less service from us. So the amount we were charging is reduced. So I just wanted to let you all know the methodology we're using during the police budget. So.
They were concerned that in the budget as well, it looked pretty high, higher than what they were paying. So they're wondering why.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I'll review it tomorrow. I mean, it's lower than the number of the proposed budget now that we've been able to work it down and we've got the amount of coverage they need. So.
Okay, good. Have you been in contact with the OBPA?
Just Steve and I emailed it on Thursday or Friday last week. Again, I want to get through the police budget work session.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other old business, anyone? Okay, and this brings us to new business. Any new business? Okay, and this brings us to items for discussion. We're moving along fast tonight, everyone. So, and this brings us to citizen participation. Again, people attending remotely, use the raise hand feature and you'll have 2 minutes.
The first person is registered as Felicia Dumas, and I will unmute that person now. It appears you are self-muted.
All right,
Appears
there
your
I
line
go.
is open.
Thank you. So I just wanted to address the board and ask if I had sent over the CDP annual report, including some of our statistics from the Ogdensburg Neighborhood Center. And I just wanted to confirm that everybody had received that.
Yeah, we had a thing on them last week.
Yeah, I sent out to everybody along with their budget request that we covered today.
A lot of emails.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure everybody received that.
And Felicia, we discussed the your budget request today during the workshop, and I'll send you an update on that in the morning.
Okay, thank you.
Next, Kathy.
The next individual is registered as David Price, and I will unmute that individual now.
I just want to make sure that we commend the work of Sarah Purdy and the previous council for getting that piece of property back on the Augsburg tax rolls. I already know that there's an interested buyer. I heard about it last year when I was on council, and that was a great job done by a great city manager who I'm sure is somebody's aunt as well. I would also like to shout out to the people who supported the first responders. Last Saturday night, they had a nice little parade around town. It was a great audio and visual display of the support this community has for the first responders. And I think it was a great display that shows that the collective voice of the people won't be silenced. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else?
The next individual is registered as Henry and Kathleen Bouchard, and I will unmute that person now. It may have been an error, Mayor, because that person has disappeared now.
Okay. Anyone else?
I do not see any other hands raised.
Okay. We do not have a need for executive session tonight, so I will make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Adjourned.